Hello and welcome to the LMP Podcast. My name is Naina and I am a learning support tutor at LMP. I am here with Jade.
Hi.
And Kate.
Hiya.
And we are here to bring you these new style podcasts. Now, as you can see in the past, we did podcasts for you, which were videos. But you know what? You want us in your pocket, you want us in your headphones. So we're just going to stick with the voice. And to be honest, it's much better for us because we don't need to brush our hair. So today we are going to start off with a tricky, what could be called a tricky topic, a bit of an awkward topic for us as well, but it's a really important topic, and the topic is consent. So I'm going to throw us right in there, guys. Do you think consent is important? And if so, why?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely think it's important. I think it's important because everyone's really got to agree on what's happening, and it can't just be one-sided. It has got to be from everyone involved, and it's something that you've got to be really clear about, despite how awkward it may be. You know, you have got to be clear on it. So I do think it's very important that everyone is in agreement.
From boys' side as well as a girl's side. I think sometimes consent is often thought about as a girl giving consent over, and actually it's just as important in today's day and age that men and lads think that they can say no and take that and have that consent as well. And it's not really the cool thing to do, but
definitely. So what does consent actually mean to you? Is it just saying yes, or is it like, could you just kind of indicate it with your body that you're consenting?
I think, like I said, you have got to be clear with it. You've got to be direct. Sometimes you might think it's implied just by how someone's behaving, but they might not always feel the way that they're acting. They might, feel like that's what they've got to do, rather than that's actually what they would like to do. So, yeah, I do think you've got to be very clear and direct.
almost has to be a holistic thing, doesn't it? Everything has to be saying the same thing, and if there's one element, whether it's the body language, the facial expressions, the wording, whatever it is, the whole thing needs to tally up.
Yeah.
Just because the mouth saying yes doesn't necessarily mean that the body language and the expression in the eyes is also saying yes.
That's a really good point, Kate. So if your body language is saying no, but you say yes, that still is not regarded as consent. If you feel like you've been pressurized, or if you have pressurized somebody and they've said yes, that's not really consent. Have any of you ever seen the cup of tea analogy?
I absolutely love the cup of tea analogy. It's brilliant. I think it's the most clearest way to get the idea of consent over. It's genius.
Do you want to explain it?
So it's an advert and it's making a cup of tea. If I ask you, do you want a cup of tea, and you want a cup of tea, then that's absolutely fine. If you say yes, you want a cup of tea, but your body language is saying not really, it's really not appropriate to force feed you a cup of tea. And certainly if you're unconscious on the floor, having said you want a cup of tea, really important not to force feed you a cup of tea. It's just a great way of getting it across. It just makes it in a light-hearted way, breaks down a really difficult subject to talk about.
Yeah. Because in all honesty, I love cups of tea, but if I'm asleep, I don't want somebody to pour a cup of tea on me, you know.
And if you're drunk, you don't want a cup of tea either.
No, exactly. And actually, did you know that if you're drunk or if you've done drugs, you can't actually consent? It's not taken. If you're asleep as well, no consent there. I mean, that should be quite obvious if you're asleep.
Yeah, but it's true that with like, you might be saying yes when you're drunk or intoxicated in some way, but you're not maybe in the right frame of mind to be able to make that decision for yourself. You might be making a decision as someone that's drunk or on drugs that maybe sober you would not have made. So that's why you can't definitely say that that's consent. So everyone's got to be careful when drinking is involved.
And also peer pressure. Somebody's got to say, what group is the person with? And is it somebody that would necessarily normally be around, or is it acting up to fit under peer pressure? And in that case, that's not consent either.
Exactly. Now with summer approaching, a lot of people have more time on their hands. They're in beer gardens. things get carried away. It's always remember what we're not saying is don't go out and have sexual relationships. What we're saying is make sure that both parties agree. And as awkward as it is, what would you do in that situation? How would you make sure you have got that consent?
Also, I suppose going into the summer, thinking about dress sense as well at the moment, because people are wearing a lot fewer clothing, and style of dress doesn't give you consent either.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think, like I said earlier, it might be awkward, but I think just so that everyone knows, I think it's worth having a direct conversation. It might not feel great to do that in the moment, but then at least you know that
actually, are you okay with this?
Yeah.
And also, I think the last point I'm going to make is you might consent, but then you might change your mind.
Yeah.
That's the consent being withdrawn. So there's no consent then.
Yeah.
On that note, I think we've discussed, what is quite a tricky topic, quite an awkward topic for everybody, quite well. So basically, remember, you need to get that consent. Don't be pressurized into consenting, and don't pressurize people into consenting as well. If you're drunk, if you're asleep, if you're on drugs, you can't count that as consent. And basically, guys, we can't wait to share our next podcast with you. So keep tuned to LMP Podcast.